With Kahlil Tatum now dead and Relisha still missing, investigators were left chasing ghosts. The man who may have held the truth was gone. The girl who sparked the search was nowhere. And the city of Washington, D.C., once silent, was now boiling with outrage, grief, and questions no one could answer. A young black girl, missing for weeks, last seen with a grown man falsely portrayed as a doctor. The story was too shocking to ignore. Every local news station, radio talk show, and digital news site was now broadcasting Relisha Rudd's name. But with the attention came criticism and outrage. Why had the public not been informed sooner? Why hadn't an Amber Alert been issued immediately? Police later claimed that the alert wasn't issued at first because there was no confirmed abduction. But the public wasn't buying it. Relisha had been gone for weeks. Her school, her mother, and the city had let her vanish. And now it seemed like the system was scrambling to clean up the mess instead of save a life. Social media lit up. #FindRelisha trended across Twitter. Activists and city leaders called emergency meetings. Protesters gathered outside D.C. General with candles and posters, demanding accountability. But beneath the noise was one deafening silence. Relisha still hadn't been found. As investigators pored over surveillance footage, witness interviews, and Tatum's financial records, a troubling timeline emerged, full of contradictions and unexplained holes. March 1st, 2014, the last confirmed sighting of Relisha with Tatum at a Holiday Inn Express. March 2nd to 19th, Tatum appears alone on camera multiple times. No Relisha. March 13th, school reports Relisha missing. March 20th, Andrea Tatum found dead. March 31st, Kahlil Tatum dies by suicide. The timeline was tight and damning, but it lacked the one thing investigators needed: evidence. No blood, no personal items, no witness reports of seeing Relisha alive after March 1st. The only person who might have known where she was had taken that secret to the grave. But the questions didn't stop. Relisha's mother, Shomika Young, gave vague, sometimes inconsistent statements. At times she claimed she'd seen Relisha after March 1st. Other times, she couldn't recall. She told one outlet that Tatum was a father figure to Relisha, and that she had no reason not to trust him. Detectives were baffled. Was it denial? Confusion? Or was she hiding something? With few leads and no physical evidence, theories began to spread, each more heartbreaking than the last. Theory 1. Relisha was murdered shortly after March 1st. Many investigators believed Tatum may have killed her soon after the hotel sighting, perhaps realizing the net was closing in. But if so, where was the body? Multiple searches across Kenilworth Park had turned up nothing. The swampy terrain, dense brush, and water made it possible that her remains were never found. But it was all speculation. Theory 2. She was trafficked. Some believed Tatum may have sold or given Relisha to someone involved in human trafficking. He had connections, cash, and seemed to be operating under a level of secrecy that hinted at more than just a one-man crime. But no confirmed reports of such activity were found. And again, no witnesses. Theory 3. The family knew more. Critics, activists, and even some law enforcement officials began to question the family's role. Why hadn't they reported her missing? Why had Shomika allowed her daughter to spend nights alone with a grown man? While police never charged Shomika Young, public sentiment turned dark. Many saw her not as a grieving mother, but as a failed protector, one whose neglect may have cost her daughter her life. As the media storm intensified, so did scrutiny of the institutions meant to safeguard children like Relisha. Despite housing hundreds of children, it had no full-time social workers monitoring family dynamics. Staff failed to flag concerns about Tatum's interactions with children. Background checks were weak. And according to city audits, abuse and neglect were frequently underreported. In the aftermath, officials would admit that D.C. General was not a place for children, a devastating realization that had come too late. Payne Elementary School. Relisha's repeated absences should have triggered mandatory truancy alerts and possible CPS involvement. But loopholes in communication allowed those absences to go uninvestigated. The fabricated story about Dr. Tatum wasn't verified, and that delay may have cost investigators crucial days. As one frustrated city official put it, the system didn't just fail Relisha, it allowed her to vanish. By late April 2014, hope was fading. Relisha's face was now printed on missing child flyers across the country. Her name had become a rallying cry for child welfare reform. But for all the speeches, all the press conferences, and all the public outcry, Relisha was still gone. A series of candlelight vigils were held outside D.C. General. Community members, neighbors, clergy, and strangers came together, holding up candles and signs. One woman held a poster that read, "She mattered then. She matters now." But behind the public grief was private exhaustion. Investigators had run out of leads. The FBI had stepped in to assist but found nothing new. Months turned to years. The search, once loud and full of energy, was now a whisper. Relisha Rudd had become a ghost, a face on a poster, a symbol of what happens when no one steps in until it's too late. Relisha's story is more than a tragedy. It's an indictment of poverty, of bureaucracy, of apathy, a system with every warning sign missed or ignored, and an innocent child who vanished into its cracks. But even in the quiet, the question remains, could she still be alive? And if not, will we ever know the truth? Stay with us, because her story isn't over. Relisha Rudd was 8 years old when she vanished under the watch of a homeless shelter, a school, and a city system designed to protect children. The man she was last seen with, Kahlil Tatum, was found dead. No body, no leads, no closure. And as the search faded, the city of Washington, D.C. was left with a bitter truth. The system itself may have helped erase her. After the death of Kahlil Tatum, the official investigation slowed dramatically. Without a suspect or fresh evidence, leads dried up. Forensics offered nothing new. Relisha's name slipped from the headlines, but not from the hearts of her community. Behind closed doors, D.C. officials were already dealing with the fallout. City council hearings were called. Department heads were summoned. Everyone wanted to know, how could this have happened? Shelter oversight. The D.C. General Family Shelter came under blistering scrutiny. Inspectors found years of mismanagement, unsanitary conditions, and inadequate supervision of children. There were no standard protocols for adults interacting with minors. There were reports that Tatum had spent time alone with other children too. An internal review concluded that the shelter was never designed to house families or safeguard children. It had become, in effect, a warehouse for the vulnerable, one that gave predators room to roam. Mayor Vincent Gray, under pressure, announced plans to shut the shelter down, a promise that would take years to fulfill. School accountability. Payne Elementary was also faulted. Its failure to confirm the identity of Dr. Tatum or alert Child Protective Services about Relisha's prolonged absence violated multiple district and federal mandates. A report from the D.C. Office of the State Superintendent of Education stated, had proper truancy protocols been followed, Relisha might have been located weeks earlier. As months turned into years, Shomika Young became the subject of relentless criticism. Journalists questioned her parenting. Community members questioned her story. Internet sleuths dug into her past. Some believed she knew more than she let on. Others believed she was just another broken woman failed by a broken system. In interviews, Shomika often appeared detached, even defensive. When asked why she allowed Relisha to go off with Tatum alone, she responded, "He was good to her. Better than most. He gave her what I couldn't." To the public, that wasn't enough. And though no charges were ever filed against her, the court of public opinion rendered its own verdict. But lost in the anger was a quieter, more complex truth. Shomika had been a child in foster care herself. Generational trauma, poverty, domestic violence, and chronic instability had followed her for years. She had lived inside the same cycle that eventually swallowed Relisha. Despite the passage of time, the search for Relisha Rudd was never officially closed. The FBI continued to list her on national databases. Billboards were updated periodically. Tips would come in every few months, sightings in New York, Maryland, and Atlanta. But none ever panned out. In 2018, on what would have been her 13th birthday, a new age progression photo was released. It showed what Relisha might look like as a teenager. The resemblance was haunting, the same deep eyes, the same quiet expression. But still, no answers. Each year, around her birthday in October, vigils were held. Community leaders pleaded for tips, and the city promised it hadn't forgotten. Yet for many, it felt like a lie. Relisha had become a symbol, a reminder of what happens when a child's life is measured in reports, policies, and checkboxes, not in love, care, and protection. In the years following Relisha's disappearance, some reforms were introduced. D.C. General was shut down in 2018, replaced by smaller, community-based family housing. New background check laws were passed for shelter staff. School truancy policies were revised to trigger faster investigations. But many activists say it's not enough. We fixed buildings, one advocate said, but not behaviors. And they had a point. D.C. still struggles with child welfare oversight. Black and brown children continue to disappear at disproportionate rates. Many are listed as runaways, and thus never receive an Amber Alert. The cycle continues. Today, Relisha Rudd's case remains open, but cold. Her bedroom at the shelter is long gone. The hotels where she was last seen have been renovated. Her face is still in the FBI's database, a quiet ghost behind digital glass. But for those who remember her, Relisha isn't just a missing person. She is a question about what we value, about which children we protect, and which ones we forget. And though no one can say for certain where she is, what happened to her, or whether she's still alive, one thing is heartbreakingly clear. She deserved more. More attention. More care. More urgency. More love. The disappearance of Relisha Rudd is not just a tragedy. It's a mirror, a reflection of what happens when systems become walls instead of safety nets. A reflection of a world where some children vanish and no one notices until it's too late. If you know anything about the disappearance of Relisha Rudd, no matter how small, please contact the FBI or the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. Her story deserves an ending. Her name deserves justice. And if you've made it this far, please, share her story. Because silence is what let her slip away. And only noise can bring her home. Microphone hash if you found this story moving. Help us make sure Relisha Rudd is never forgotten. Like, comment your thoughts below, and share this video to keep her memory alive. And don't forget to subscribe to True Crime Hub for more deep, emotionally charged investigations. Someone out there knows something, and your share could be the one that helps bring answers home.